Thanks for joining us for today's message, but don't stop there. Download our app today and stay connected throughout the week. And we would love to hear how God's using this ministry to impact your life. So let us know by sending a message to amen@morelifechurch.com. Now enjoy today's message.
I want to talk to you today about the subject, success of the soul. Success of the soul. In 3 John chapter 1, John the Apostle is writing to believers, and here's what he says. He says, "Dear friends, I pray that you may enjoy good health." Everybody say enjoy. That you may enjoy good health, and that all may go well with you, even as your soul is getting along well. Everybody say well. In the New King James, he says it this way: "Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health, just as your soul prospers." I want to say this to you. God is interested in the success of our soul. God is interested in that component of our life growing, developing, and being successful. Successful is not an anti-God or anti-church word. In fact, that is what the word prosper means. And I would submit this to you, that you cannot live the life that God has called you to live if you neglect your soul. Your soul is made up of three real simple parts: your mind, your will or your desires, and your emotions. And these three areas are often ignored and neglected in the church world. Now, everyone has to define their own success in terms of the success of your soul. In other words, some of you may want to feel more energized, and that's how you would define the success of your soul. Some of you want to grow in your influence with the community in which you're situated in. You may define that as success of the soul. Some of you want to feel more connected to your family members, your spouse, your kids, your loved ones, and you would define that as success for your soul. Some of you want to feel like you're making a profound difference in the world around you, and that may be how you define success for your soul. Some of you just want to simply be better at doing life and just be a better human being, and that's how you're defining success of your soul. There's a broad range of definitions, so I don't want to be narrow in this approach, but I want you to begin to think about the truth behind the fact that God wants your soul to succeed. I'm going to ask some questions and offer some thoughts on how you can arrive at that place of soul, or the success of the soul. Now, these three components, mind, will, and emotion, make up such a large fabric of who we are as people. But yet I find that oftentimes myself, and other church leaders fail to discuss this, fail to really bring this out, which I think is a massive mistake, because so much of life hinges on the way we think, the way we feel, what we desire. And John says that God wants this area of our life to be prosperous, to be growing, and to be successful. So much of your life and my life is determined by our emotions, and some of us kind of feel captive to our own emotions, captivated by them, like we are at their mercy, and things end up happening, and we react, and then we justify why we react that way, and our emotions get the better of us. And if you're anything like me, you get upset. If you've ever gotten upset, anybody ever gotten upset? Anybody ever at least heard of the idea? You've at least heard of this idea, right? That human beings sometimes get upset. And so I've done that. And then what happens is my emotions go out of control. And then I spend the next hour feeling guilty because I let my emotions run out of control. And so they go even further out of control and spiral to then I obsess over, I am just a terrible human being. Jesus could never love me. Like all these extremes that are absolutely not true. This idea of your soul is interesting because they're like intermingled, your mind and your desire and your wills, and they're like a potpourri and hard to separate out, but I'm going to try to with a crude analogy. My wife and I, as I said a few minutes ago, we were in LA taking our daughter to her 9-month season of service into inner city, and dealing with and helping people who are dealing with mental illness and drug addiction and poverty and all types of things. And so we flew in, and I had the idea. I'd been to LA before, and I didn't want to drive. I didn't want to drive in LA. It's a terrible. God has forgotten about Los Angeles when it comes to driving around. It's just terrible, and it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. It's so complicated. It's so frustrating. It's so. On our way to the airport, let me just fast forward and tell you the end. On our way to the airport on Sunday night, our flight left at 10:50 p.m. 10:50 p.m. 11 o'clock at night. Okay? If you think about Newark at 11 o'clock at night, you can get from the Basket to the Wendy's in Granville in like 3 minutes, right? It took us 30 minutes to go 2 miles as we were approaching the airport. I was so frustrated. We took an Uber because we didn't rent a car, so we took Uber. And I told the Uber driver, I can see the airport. It's there. It's right there. It's right. And I'm looking at his little GPS. It's 30 minutes. It's right there. And so we took Uber everywhere we went. And it ended up being cheaper for us in the long run, and I didn't have to navigate parking and which side of the road I'm supposed to be on and how do I get there, and I didn't have to deal with $5.19 a gallon for gas, and that's literally what it was. And so I didn't have to deal with any of that stuff. And so all I had to do was in my phone, tell the phone where I wanted to go, and then the phone told me that Jorge was going to pick me up in 3 minutes in a black Kia Soul. That they would tell you, and here's the license plate number. And so you'd get in, and he'd come, and he'd pick you up, and he'd take you. And the next one was Maria, and then so on and so forth. And it would just tell you everything you needed to know. It would take you from point A to point B, and was really, really, really convenient. And I want you to think about this. It's like the modern day taxi cab. But when you think about your soul, your mind, your will, and your emotions, the Uber, it is the taxi for your emotions. It is the mind portion of your life. And when I got into the Uber, imagine that I am the emotion, and the Uber is my mind, and the Uber's taking me from point A to point B. This is often, I think, the best way I've learned to describe how your emotions and your mind and your desires work together. You have an emotion, and then your mind takes that emotion wherever it wants to take you. And often it's not a good place. We were on our way to this one place called Gorilla Tacos, and the driver, it was awesome, but the driver said, he said, "You want to leave before dark." I said, "Pardon me?" He said, "You don't want to be here at dark." I'm like, "Okay, do I want to be here now, or should we go someplace else?" He's like, "It's fine now, just be gone by dark." I'm thinking, that's kind of an extreme thing to say. And so I asked the server, I said, "The Uber driver said something odd. He said we should be gone by dark." And they said, "Oh yeah, you should definitely be gone by dark." And so I made sure to call for an Uber, right when we ordered the meal, so we weren't there too long. And so let me just mix a whole bunch of analogies up. My mind started going a whole bunch of different directions, and I started feeling things. And I wonder if anyone in the room can identify, if you're not in the room, maybe someone online can identify with this idea that you have an emotion, and then your mind takes that emotion to a place it should have never been. And when you don't have a prospering, healthy, successful soul, what ends up happening is it runs the show, and it takes you places that you shouldn't travel. And you end up actually regretting where you went. And it doesn't have anything to do with your heart or your spirit, because that's been regenerated by the grace of God. It doesn't have anything to do with your physical body, because that's a whole nother element of who you are. But that internal component that you can't see ends up taking you places that it shouldn't go. And then you end up feeling trapped and helpless when, what I want to say to you, you're not. You're not. Even though the problem that I've just presented to you seems daunting, it's something that you can find success in. I'm gonna say a couple things and your brain is gonna say, no way, Josh, no way that's possible. And you're gonna feel that way. But here's the good news. Even though your mind is saying no way, God is saying yes way. Yes, that is possible. And what I hope occurs is that you experience in your soul, and that inner part of you, that part of you that doesn't get a lot of attention and a lot of discussion, but has a lot of activity. What I hope you experience when you leave here is a cold cup of water for your dry and thirsty soul. I hope what you experience today is what someone experienced in the first service when they came, and they came to me and they said, I headed to church this morning and I had no hope. I could find no passion. I was looking all over and I couldn't find it. I was so dry and thirsty inside. But now I'm leaving and I'm refreshed. I hope that when you leave here, you leave differently than you came. I'm planning on leaving differently than how I came, for the better. And I think you can too. And so I want to give you a couple of things that I think will be worth your consideration as you give attention to a soul that's prospering, as you give attention to the success of your soul. Here's the first thing that I want you to think about. The first thing is that I think contributes to a healthy soul, success of the soul. And remember, I can't define it. You have to define it for you. But one of the things that I think will contribute to a success in your soul is this. If you're taking notes, I want you to write this down. Write this down, please. Make the choice to choose. This is the beginning of success in your soul. This is the beginning of success in your mind and your will and your emotions. Make the choice to choose. And here's what I mean by that. Think about this. If you were a bird, what kind of habitat would you choose to live in? Someone might say, hey, I would choose to live in the tropical rainforest of the Amazon basin. Seems like a pretty good habitat for me. Someone else might say, I'd want to live in the high altitudes of a Tibetan plateau. Some of you might say, I'd like to live in the chilly lakes of Minnesota. Others of you might be more like me and say, I'm looking for something more like Hawaii or Fiji, where there are nice sand beaches and warm temperatures. Whatever the habitat, here's what I want you to think about. You'd simply choose the habitat that fit the kind of bird that you were. In other words, if you were a penguin, you'd choose a cold shore next to a part of the ocean filled with delicious little fishes. If you were a peregrine falcon, you'd choose a mountainous region with high perches so that you could descend down on the prey that you were feeding on. If you were a hummingbird, you'd choose a warm climate with abundant flowers full of nectar. That's what you would choose. And when I say make the choice to choose, I want you to take the complication out of it that we've woven into Christianity and following God. We've made these things overly complicated. When it comes to choosing a habitat, each type of bird would simply select the one that fulfills its unique set of needs and preferences. That's what it would do. And we often choose to make things more complicated than they need to be. Consider what Jesus said in Matthew chapter 6. This is a fundamental choice that I would encourage everyone in here to choose as a foundation. And if you don't hear this part, you'll go askew with the heart behind this idea. Matthew 6:33 says this, but seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. Jesus is really clear. Choose this and choose it first and watch what happens. And all of these things will be added to you. When we choose, it puts our individuality into action. If you're married, I have a suspicion that you've observed a different approach to life than your spouse. Let me say it to you this way. I'm guessing that if you're married, you and your spouse don't always view life the same. Some of you aren't sure if you want to acknowledge that or not, and I'm kind of wondering now if I'm in the right room, okay? Perhaps you know the idea of choosing something or forming an opinion and someone seeing it very different from you. Anybody ever had that experience? Okay, a little bit going in that direction. All right. We're living in an interesting time where there are so many different choices. And we live in a world that says this: be the same as everyone else, just be better. And I don't think that's better. I think that's much, much worse. Because I think one of the superpowers of humanity, of us as individuals, that God has put in us, is our uniqueness. And when we begin to succeed in our soul, it's attached to our fearlessness to accept our God-given individuality and function within that individuality. Like to choose to be not the same as everyone else. Choose from the myriad of choices the thing that represents the habitat that you would most like to live in. And before you get into like this whole religious brainwashing portion that says, what about this and what about that? I'm gonna get a little bit ahead of myself, but let me ask you this. When we have noble thoughts and ideas, righteous thoughts and ideas, godly, healthy thoughts and ideas, where did those come from? Not a trick question, sorry to stump you. They come from God. And I'm saying we overcomplicate things. God is the one who placed the soul within us. We think a certain way. We feel a certain way in accordance with how God has created us. It doesn't mean we can't grow and develop and change over time. But what it does mean is we should take the complicated nature of life out of it and trust how we see the world when God is the center as a true north for us to make choices and decisions that are in front of us to make. And I think one of the most important, powerful decisions that you can make today is, I'm going to be a person who succeeds in my soul. That's what I'm going to do. When I was growing up, lots of choices were limited for me. I happen to like video entertainment. Like that's kind of a thing that I kind of get a kind of a reprieve from, and I kind of get an escape when I watch television or certain things. I grew up and was a kid in the 80s. How many 80s kids are here? Some of you, all right. How many of you only know about the 80s because of Google? Yeah, some of you. Okay, all right, fair enough. So let me rewind and let's time travel for a minute. Growing up, our television had 3 channels. 4, some of you have been to the same seminar I have. 4, 6, and 10. ABC, NBC, and CBS. Now, we were on the cutting edge because our television had a remote control. His name was Josh. And my parents would say, change it, and I'd walk up and I'd grab the dial and I'd click it, one channel, and that's how the TV worked. You just click it. And I remember the day when Newark got a 4th channel, Fox 28. And I just like got so excited, like my world grew and expanded. Now, then the choices were much, much more limited then than they are now. I remember going to the video store which was an actual physical location where they had these boxes of descriptions and pictures of movies that you would drive to, and you would be in hopes of getting a certain movie and hope that someone hadn't checked it out ahead of you before you got there. And if they did, you would give them your name and they would call you when they brought it back. And you would, if you were really interested, you'd try to get the phone number of the individual so that you could see if they would return it sooner. And I remember that we had both a VHS and a beta VCR. Ooh, it's really fancy. Choices began to expand at a rapid rate. Now, compare that to today. The level of choices are exponentially greater in every area of life. Not just think about video entertainment and the massive exponential differences and choices that are available. I saw a survey of individuals who were under the age of 15, and 95% of them had not watched anything on cable TV in over 30 days. Yeah, that's crazy. Like, the choices are changing, right? I'm saying that because choice matters. And what we choose in life matters. And we have to understand this. There is a difference between picking and choosing. Choosing is an active process. It's something you're engaged in. It's when you have the freedom to choose that you can create your own opportunities, including ones that nobody else is considering, or ones that no one else is considering. Picking is passive. When you pick, it's different because it's simply selecting from real choices that someone else has made on your behalf. And what you're then essentially doing is picking the chocolate that's left in the box that someone else decided on for you. And many people feel that that's the way life is. I see parents do this, and this isn't the parenting seminar today, but I just wanted to say this. I see parents oftentimes picking for their kids based on their own unhealthy regrets in life. And that is a massive mistake. The parent who wishes they would have went pro in that sport and now lives vicariously through their child who has no interest in that. You have taken their choice and their individuality away, and they're not able to succeed in their soul because you've prioritized your soul ahead of their own. And that is a massive mistake that someone has to stand up and say, we've got to stop doing that type of thing to our young people. Thank you for the 3 amens from staff members and the 2 nods. It's true. It must be for someone online, so please share that idea. Let it go around the world. Angie and I have recently made a real choice that I want to spend a couple minutes talking about. Angie and I have made a real choice to downsize. We've chosen to sell our home, which is more space than we need now, and buy something else. We've made a choice. And I'm going to tell you why here in just a second, but we've made a choice to downsize so that we can pursue our future in a way that allows our soul to succeed rather than allowing our image to flourish. That's important for us, that we're learning this second thing. Number one is make the choice to choose. The second one is this: value fulfillment over achievement. We live in a world, if you're in the corporate world, you know what it means to live under the rule of achievement. Meet this goal, sell this many products, meet this quota, hit this target, hit this line. Everyone in the room has felt the tyranny of achievement. A Harvard professor says this, that in the largest survey ever done of Americans, asking them about how they view success, For the first time in surveying, there is a shift occurring where Americans, individuals, no longer want wealth, status, and power as a primary achievement in life. They rather would prefer meaning and purpose and fulfillment as opposed to possessions and power and wealth. And I think that this is an important shift that is contributing to the success of our soul. I think it's 3 John coming to pass in our life, that our soul then, when we're able to see, hey, wait a minute, my life is not the sum total of everything I've achieved, that something more important is at play, and it's that at the end of the day, when I go home, I lay my head on that pillow and I give a big sigh of relief and realize that I impacted the world in a meaningful way that I feel good about in my soul. That achievement's fine. I'm not against it. I don't think achievement is wicked. But listen to this verse in Ecclesiastes chapter 4. It says this, and I saw that all toil and all achievement, everybody say achievement. I saw that all toil and all achievement spring from one person's envy of another. He's saying that at the core of achievement is often us wanting to do better than another person. Can I say this to you? That life is not about you being better than someone else. It's not about you achieving more than someone else. Life is not about you being better than your neighbor. Life is about you being better than you. Yeah, thank you. Life is about you pursuing God and being the best in your soul that He's designed for you to be. That you live up to His idea for your life, not your neighbor's idea for your life. Oh man, that is so good, Josh. Thank you. I believe I'll keep on going. This too is meaningless, he says. A chasing after the wind. Futile. Fools fold their hands and ruin themselves. Watch this. Better one handful with tranquility than 2 handfuls with toil and chasing after the wind. Can I just say it real plain? Sometimes life boils down to this. It'd be better to have fulfillment and happiness. I'd rather have more fulfillment than I would have money. Because at the end of the day, you got 2 handfuls. There's nothing necessarily wrong with money. Nothing wrong with achievement. Here's the question I'm asking. Are you succeeding in your soul and are you feeling fulfilled? Because if you're chasing achievement, then maybe today God is signing off to you and throwing up a flare and giving you a signal that says, hey, you don't have to chase achievement. It's going to be like you chasing the wind. You can actually experience fulfillment and satisfaction, and fulfillment will lead you to a better place in your soul than achievement ever will. Can I tell you that I've lived under the weight of achievement? I've done it. I'm just going to talk real plain for like 30 seconds. I've chased forever a number in church world, thinking if I achieve this, then I'll be fulfilled. If I achieve this, I started off with, man, when we get to 100 people as a church, I'm gonna really feel fulfilled. And we got to 100, and I thought, well, when we get to 200, I'm gonna feel really fulfilled. And we got to 200, and it was, the next thing was, when we get to 500, then I'm gonna really feel fulfilled. And at the end of that achievement, there was no fulfillment. When we get to 1,000, then I'm gonna really feel fulfilled, because that's gonna be God's stamp of approval on my life. And I'm gonna feel this sense of satisfaction. We got to 1,000 and I didn't feel fulfilled. And then I thought, when we get to 1% of our county, then I'm really gonna feel fulfilled. If I reach this achievement, if I reach this goal, if I reach this measurable standard of success, then I'm gonna feel something in my soul. And we reached 1% of our county, and it was the same lack of fulfillment. And here's what I realized, that achievement is not going to get me as a human being to a place of satisfaction and fulfillment. What's going to get me there is a healthy, prosperous, growing soul. Let me say it to you this way, borrowing Jesus' words in Mark chapter 8. What good is it for someone to gain the whole world, achievement, and forfeit their soul and give up fulfillment? I'm begging you, like I'm pleading with you, value fulfillment over achievement. You can have both. Both are possible, but let's stop chasing those external accomplishments with the belief that it's going to cause us any internal fulfillment. Many expect their achievements to bring fulfillment and can't understand why they have certain things but still aren't fulfilled. Others who haven't attained or achieved their goals or desires are blaming their lack of achievement for many things in life, and they say things like this: when I get that job, then. When I graduate college, then. If only my parents would have done a better job, then. When I pay off this student debt, when I do this or when I do that, when I retire, then I'm really going to live. When I have grandkids, then I'm the parenting thing is achievement, but not much fulfillment. When I grandkids, that's what, no. You're postponing your fulfillment and transferring one achievement addiction for another. When you attach your fulfillment to temporary achievements, you'll find that your fulfillment will be a temporary achievement. I want to say it again. When you attach your fulfillment to temporary achievements, your fulfillment will be a temporary achievement. It won't last. So know the difference. Value one over the other. Don't forget to work on the success of your soul. However you define it. The last thing I want to say is this. The third component is this. Make the choice to choose. Value fulfillment over achievement. And third is really simple. And it's going to mess with some of you because it's simple. Do what you love. Do what you love. Now I can hear a certain mindset that says, well, you got to qualify that, Josh. You got to give some guardrails for that. I have qualified it. I'm saying it in a church. Oftentimes people say, Josh, you gotta give people the guardrails, or else they'll go crazy. Like, what if they love smoking this and drinking that? And I would say that they're probably not listening in the right context if they feel as though do what you love is permission to do something like that. I'm talking about trusting the inner tuition in your soul. See, I think young people are onto something. I've been guilty of calling people younger than me spoiled, entitled, or whatever, but here's what I'm realizing. They're not that at all. They're doing something vitally important. They're succeeding in their soul. They understand what they love, and they go and do it. Someone says it can't be that simple. It can. It really can. To experience success of the soul, you have to find out what you love and do that thing more often. You are the chief curator of your own soul. Just like people curate and collect works of art for the museum or for a display, they go around the world collecting the best of whatever it is and put it on showcase. That is a picture of you and your role within your life as you succeed in your soul. You're the one that's responsible. Does your soul love solitude? Then get away from people and be alone for a while. Like, if your soul craves it, here's what so many people do. They know what their soul loves, and they restrain themselves from doing it as if there's something wrong with doing what their soul wants and craves to do. There's nothing wrong with solitude. Sometimes you just got to get away, right? I don't know what band it is, but is it Journey? It's ringing in my head. I'm sorry. Don't judge me for letting Journey ring in my head. If I could sing it and knew the words, I would. But like the solitude, like if that's what feeds your soul, then do it. If you like being outdoors, do it. I hate being outdoors. It does not feed my soul. Like I'm outdoors and all I think of is how do I get away from the mosquitoes and the bugs and the humidity and the stuff and the work and like the smells. Like I don't want like, the Hilton is my best form of camping. Come on, somebody. Like, and if that's not yours, cool. I can't define that for you, but here's the deal. Don't ask me to do what your soul loves so that you feel justified in you doing what your soul loves to do. Like your soul can love that and my soul can love this and we can be okay. I'm gonna ask somebody to help me play because I'm gonna be through. Do you come alive by serving people in hospitality? Do you come alive maybe when you're in the kitchen? Are you at your happiest place when you're making a meal for someone or being hospitable? Do you notice things that no one else notices and feel really fulfilled and satisfied and fed in your soul when you do those things? See, all of these things that your soul loves are obvious indicators to who you are as a person and what you should do in life as you move forward. That's why all of this is massively important. Some of you are going to leave here, and you're going to want to make an appointment with someone, and you're going to want to digest this and dissect it and figure it out. And I'm going to say to you, it's just as simple as you're hearing it. It's simple, but it's not easy. Maybe your life is busy with things that other people love for you to do for them. Some of you are so worn out because you've spent the majority of your time looking after someone else's soul and forgot have been the curator of your own. Let this be permission to be the leader of your own soul. Do you know that the world's happiness or lack thereof does not ride on your shoulders? I would even say that when your soul is neglected and malnourished, I'd invite you to do a little exercise. Do this today. The religious mind may not let you do this, but fight through that. Write down 5 things that you love to do. Write down 5 things that you love to do and ask yourself this question as we finish, as a takeaway. How much time do I spend doing those things? And if the answer is not a lot, some of you are like, I don't even need to make a list, Josh. I got that answer before you got finished with the statement. If the answer is not a lot, then you need to begin to work on that immediately. If your soul is going to succeed, you have to give it more of what it loves. And it's okay to do that. It's actually the right thing to do with that. Because you're not going to find the success of the soul by doing the things that motivate others. You're going to find success in the soul by doing the things that motivate you.
Thanks again for joining us today. Now take a second and subscribe to our channel, or share this message with someone you think could use it. If you would like to support this ministry financially, you can do that by visiting morelifechurch.com/give or through our app. Have a blessed day.